there, my dear kittens, puppies, wanderers, nomads, mystics, artists, magicians, and folks who like to jump between different dimensions.
What?
Hello there!
Hello there!
Welcome to Loom Art, a platform where you can create, share, and play interactive fiction or visual novels. By the way, this would be the first tutorial in the series of how to use the Weaver. In this video, we would be discussing on how to make a simple text-based game using only the general node, and we would be using only the image, text, and options components to make this simple game of ours. First things first, let us make a project in our Create page. Click on the Weave New Story card and give your project a suitable title, description, and a thumbnail. Once done, hit the Weave button and wait for your project while it is being created. As you can see, our project is now created. Click on the project so we can make our first game using the Weaver. So let me give you a simple introduction on what the general node is. The general node is one of the 4 nodes of the Weaver. Simply open the hamburger menu on the top left corner of the screen, drag and drop your general node on the canvas, double-click on the general node to edit scenes. You can add new scenes by clicking on the Add Scene button. Double-click on your added scene to edit it. Each scene would hold the components which would be rendered to the player. You could add components by simply clicking on the Add button on the top right corner of your scene content container. For every click on the previous screen, components would render based on the order it is arranged. This rendering order can always be changed by dragging these components inside the scene content container. You could always preview your current scene inside your general node. Double-click on the added component for editing its properties, through which you can change the way they look and their rendering behavior. Now, we have got a basic understanding of how the general node works. Let's plan on how to make our simple interactive fiction. So this would be our workflow. We would have 2 scenes on the first general node. The first scene would introduce the player to the environment. The second scene is where we introduce them to the choices they would have to make with the options component. Based on the choices they make, we would route them to different nodes. So, let's make our first scene. Now I have made my first scene, and if I click on Preview, I can render each component one by one for each click. If you want to render the components automatically without the need to click, simply change the rendering property of each component and set it to automatic rendering. You can experiment with different variations. For example, if you need to render all the components with a single click, then set every component to render automatically except the first one. In this case, with one click, I can render all the components of this particular scene with a single click. Now, let's make our second scene. In this scene, I have an image component, a text component, and an options component. If you double-click on your options component and scroll down in your component editor, you will see this yellowish section named Enable Time Limit, just above your layout and transform tools. This property, when enabled, would give a specific time limit for the player to choose their choice. On timeout, you could either choose a random option or a specific option. In this case, I'm going to enable the time limit, and if the player fails to click an option before the time limit, the blue door option would be chosen for them automatically, and the story would move on from there. Once you are done with a node, you can click the Return to Canvas button on the bottom right corner. The changes and components of your nodes would be saved automatically inside the Weaver and not on the database. So once you finish editing a node and return to the main canvas, it is always a best practice to click on the Save button. Our game is now saved, and if you take a closer look, our general node has been changed now. Since we added an options component inside our node, we have two new output arrowheads on our general node. These arrowheads can be connected to the input arrowheads of other nodes. Now, let's make two other general nodes, one for the red door, another for the blue door ending. Hey, I would really appreciate it if you could check out my game on the site. I have provided the link in the description. Thank you so much. Back to the Weaver. Now that we have made our red door and blue door ending, let's go ahead and connect the output arrowhead of our first general node to the input arrowhead of the other nodes accordingly. Now, click on the Settings button and set your root node. The root node is where your game would always start from. Also, make sure that all of your output arrowheads are connected. If not, then you would not be able to publish your creations to the Loom. But for us, we are good to go. It is a best practice to rename the general node names as it would be displayed on the player console. Let's do it real quick. There you go. Now we have renamed our general nodes. Let's now go ahead and set our root node in the settings panel. Now that our root node is set, all that is left to do is to preview our game. Let's go ahead and test if our logic flow is right. And my dear Weavers, this is how you can make your own game with the flick of a wrist. Save your game, go back to the Create page. If your creation misses a root node, or if you have forgot to connect an output arrowhead, or if your game has no scenes at all, this Publish button that is enabled for me wouldn't be visible to you. Instead, there will be a red dot. For now, we are good, so I'm going to click on the Publish button. You can rename your creation if necessary, make a cool description, you can add texts and GIFs here in the description section, choose necessary categories, add custom categories if necessary, and always make sure to be honest about the warnings your game might have before publishing. Since we are good to go, let's go ahead and click this. Thank you so much for watching the video until the end. We are hyped to look at your creations. What are you waiting for? Go ahead, weave your path, traveler. Until next time, bye-bye. I'll see you on the Loom's realm.